to the first PPES meeting of the year. Open the meeting at 2:33. So, first item on the agenda is 07T, which is apologies for absence.
Apologies and reason given were received from Councillor C. Simpson, which have been accepted by the clerk. I haven't heard anything from Councillor Steve Lewis.
Oh, right, okay. But he hasn't done it officially. No. Right, okay. Fair enough. And then 07T71 is declarations of interest to receive any declarations of interest in accordance with the requirements of the Localism Act 2011 and to consider any requirements for dispensations in respect of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest in agenda items.
No.
No.
Okay. 072 is the minutes to resolve to approve as a correct record the notes of the meetings of the committee held on the 30th of November 2022. Oh, typo.
Yeah.
And to authorise the chair to sign the official minutes. So, is everybody happy?
I did on that say that I would go around stores collecting contact details. It wasn't on the minutes. I don't mind, but
Yeah.
I'll still do it.
Yeah.
We'll take that as a...
Okay. I'll sign on that. Yes. Number 23 now. Okay. 073 is the clerk's report.
Regarding the Kubo windows, the gentleman broke his ankle. I've been in contact since. He's due to see his consultant on the 24th of January and he'll be in contact with us to let us know when he can start. He did say, did we want to leave it because of the winter months coming up, but it needs to be done, and we'll just notify the occupants that the work will be taking place and they can make other arrangements. Saturday Bridge, the Lincolnshire County Council has responded to me to say that 2 new signs will be installed and it's in the hands of his colleagues, and they're overseeing all the other aspects of lighting and power connections to those, but he's just going to keep us informed of anything.
Did he say whether it was in this next year's budget or...?
It's already been put in there, the work's been requested to happen, it's just as and when.
Yeah.
But he said he'll keep in touch and obviously I'll keep chasing him with that. The flashing speed awareness signs that I was looking into, I've had a look at quite a few, they all seem to be over £2,000, but I've contacted Lincolnshire County Council, I'll contact there to see if they can recommend anybody who's cheaper. Hopefully they'll get back to me soon. It's usually about a week before it comes back to me. The ones I've found in my local area have been, there's nothing on there to say where they're from, so that's not been much help at all.
Does anybody refurb them? You know, once they're up, do they stay up? Because there's some in pretty poor disrepair places, and
I think the thing is, it depends on who they belong to.
Mm.
If they're highways, then it's down to them. They have to do it, but there's obviously several parish councils purchase.
yeah, of course.
So therefore, then it would be down to them to.
At the cost of them, I can't believe
I
it.
mean, the older ones, the rechargeable batteries,
It's about how to do it.
it's just about it doesn't last.
Yeah. So we haven't. I mean, obviously we've got nothing left in the budget for this year. So we're looking to next year. I can't remember what we put in the budget, but we didn't put.
I suppose it's whether it's cheaper to get a replacement battery for the one we've already got,
Or a.
because if it's just the battery that's just not charging, it's probably not going to be too much.
We know where we got the SID from the last one, don't we?
Yeah.
So it might be worth. Can we inquire as to a replacement battery cost so that we know what we're doing?
Yeah.
Because once we get into beyond May and the new district councillors are in post, if we do need to look at having another sign, we can always
Ask for some
ask for some of their budget, because they were all quite keen last time,
Well,
weren't they?
good.
Okay, so is that it?
Yeah.
Karen? Thank you. So then 074 is planning applications. Right, so we've got quite a few.
We've got some extra ones.
Yeah, we've got some extra ones as well. So if we go through them, I know there's a couple
It's on
here.
supported.
Yeah, I know there's a couple that
So the format's
Where?
been changed to we used to.
not too enamoured with. So, going down the list. So the first one, which is the listed, it's a listed building, and they want to change of use from a B&B class 3 to an HMO.
That's also on there again, isn't
Yeah,
it?
there's two. They're obviously, it's
It's
the
just
same building, they're just... My concern about that is that it's already being used as an HMO and has been for a very long time.
Mhm.
So they clearly didn't put in the correct planning application in the first place when they bought the property. So, you know,
Is this the building with the letting?
It's the one near the Red Line, yeah,
Yes.
it's the letting
Yes.
company.
yeah.
The other weird thing, when you actually look on the South London District Council for the planning for that one, they put in an application, I believe, in 2020, the same thing, and it's never been decided upon, which questions as why hasn't it been refused, approved, or anything. It's just sitting there
And they
undecided.
didn't withdraw it?
No, it's just undecided.
Mm.
So, I suppose the question is why is the application still undecided? Obviously, the planning permission would have lapsed anyway by now. But yeah, it's been used as a HMO ever since it changed hands.
So it's got HMOs.
Housing for multiple occupancy,
So it's basically rooms.
where they convert it into rooms.
So it has to be 3 people not in the same family.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. There's
Yes,
certain regulations
yes,
around it. Yeah. So personally, I think we should.
I believe that is the property where they had a significant number of issues.
Yes, they've had
Police being
police
called
issues.
and, yeah, as well.
If we do, what are the grounds for rejecting it? Because of the previous undecided?
Partly because they have blatantly been used as an HMO without having had planning permission, so they've already done it.
And they've done
They've
the-
already carved it up, and it is a listed building. And quite frankly, you know,
They're not
it's,
allowed to.
it's,
No,
they
they
can't
do.
just do what they want with a listed building, and they have done. And I think, you know, it needs to be said that
You're then setting a precedent that people can just do
Do
it
what they
and then
like.
5 years down the line apply for retrospective to, which is not
So if they've already done this, by rejecting it, what impact is it going to have on them? They're going to have to then
You can
stop
actually, I
using
mean, I
it.
lived in a listed building before. If you've done something that you've not got permission from the listed buildings
That's
people,
right.
you have to reverse it.
Yes.
Or you can be asked to reverse
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think,
So there's also,
I
sorry.
suspect, I don't know, but I suspect there's a reason why they're doing it, and I would suggest it's potentially for a sale. And they won't be able to sell it without planning permission in place. So I suspect that's the reasoning behind it. I don't know for sure.
But if they have gone ahead and done it anyway without previous planning permission,
Yeah.
the idea that health and safety hasn't been done,
There'll be,
There will be fire doors
inspectors
or...
Yeah.
would not check that building without it
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Because again, if they were running it as a B&B, then there's certain regulations that they'd have to
Yeah.
meet for that as well. Whether that has even been inspected,
Yeah.
I doubt very much.
Yeah.
So it appears that it's slipped through the net, and if they're going to, if it is passed, then we want to know that it's going to be properly inspected and that anything that is
Yes.
wrong
Yeah.
is going to be put
Rectified.
right.
That's right. So if there's any comeback as a result of this,
Yeah.
we need 5 or 6 items of evidence to say that it's been done
Yeah.
already in a
Yeah.
safe
Yeah.
fashion.
And also, I think a comment does need to be made about why, when it was applied for in 2020,
Yes.
was it not decided on? Because that just raises red flags immediately. There must be a reason why it's sitting there.
So I think, I mean, you've got the general gist, Karen, but
Yeah.
when you come to do the actual bit, we'll just, if you
Email around.
email it round to us and see whether we're happy with what you've put together. because it's, we just need to be sure of what we're actually saying and making it very clear what we're saying.
I would suggest, are they the same planning? Oh no, they're not the same.
There's two.
Yeah,
different-
one would be probably listed building consent and one would be planning permission, I would suggest.
We can look at it in detail.
So we'd have to
before we
comment on
actually-
both of them.
Yeah. So we need to do both of those, but for whatever reason, certainly like for the listed building consent, then the concern is that, this is a
The concerns are the
prime,
same, yeah.
prime building, we don't,
Although there would be no damage externally, there would clearly be
Yeah.
damage to features internally. But I think it said that the listing didn't make reference to the internal. So it's not listed because of its inside, it's listed on the outside.
Okay, so the next one, change of use of rear ground floor. Can't remember the details of that one.
That was the one in the High Street, I believe,
Oh,
isn't it?
yes, the one where
Right
they,
there.
again, yeah.
Obligatory shop.
Yeah.
Residentials.
Yes, again, that's a bit of a, it's,
It was parking that I think I commented on.
Yeah,
I don't know what allocated parking they have
There's
around the back from the
There's not a
checkers.
lot, is there?
I don't think they have any.
I think they have a right of way,
Yeah.
but that is it, as
Yeah.
far as I'm aware. Nobody actually has designated parking within that area. And again, it will very much depend on what happens with the whole checkers yard.
Yeah.
Because they're looking at what they're doing with the checkers
Mhm.
yard, so that it's a knock-on effect. Yes, we can put something together around, concerns about where
Yeah.
they're going to park,
Well, it's
etc.
access as well, isn't it, again?
Mm.
Yeah, because the access is from the rear and not.
Okay.
No, the access is from the putting in the new front door.
Oh, we've got a different.
They're changing the frontage of the shop.
Okay.
So that comes down to fire again, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be the distance to, it should be, I would say they'll have a rear and front access, in which case they'll meet the regulations. It should be okay, but it's, the main thing is parking. Yeah, I mean, the amount of shops there that are converted either upstairs or at the back, a lot of them are residential and access from the rear of the checkers yard. There is just no parking. Well, you say there's no parking, there's the district council car park, which
Kind of
I
an
think,
evening
have
there's
we not
parking.
said many a time about opening it of an evening because of all the flats on the high street that don't have parking?
I think we need to readdress
Yeah.
that one.
There was
It's about time they did.
somebody who lives in the Checkers asked on Facebook a few months ago about parking because they got a lot of parking tickets for parking in the high street because there is no parking. So as you've got an asset sitting there, would it not make sense to use it?
So put that within our comment and say that, our major concern is where all these people are going to be parking in the whole,
The
High
little
Street
car park on the
locations.
opposite side, opposite the co-op.
yeah,
That's a public
that is
car park.
free.
But that,
Is
yeah,
that open all the time?
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
it
not-
is, yeah.
and it's
but
free, so it is
Yeah.
residential parking most of the time.
It's full most of the time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so, but of an evening, people can do on-street parking, obviously down Albert Street and places like that, but again, that gets very busy because none of the houses much
But I
have got parking
believe
there.
Boston Road car park, did they not shut it in the evening when they didn't have the bollards and gates across the middle because they were getting antisocial behaviour?
Mhm.
But since then, they've put the gates across the middle so you can't drive through. So
Yeah.
what is the reason for not
Well,
opening it?
yes, I think it needs to be addressed.
So we write to them.
Even if they can only open one side, be better than nothing, wouldn't it?
Okay. And then you've got proposed side extension and alterations. I don't think there was anything contentious with that one.
No, nothing.
And then you've got proposed domestic garden shed to the rear of a new dwelling.
That was the one over there somewhere, wasn't it? I think one of those enormous houses that's been built.
Oh,
along-
one of the new ones
Yes.
off of Northern
Yes,
Lane.
yeah.
Ah, right,
Okay.
There was a shed in the back garden, I think.
right.
Well, I
Oh,
say,
so it's
I say shed.
the shed is larger than their permitted development,
Yeah.
presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is.
It has to be a metre away from
The boundary.
the boundary, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, so I presume it's either in a location or a size that's not within their permitted developments. but they've started constructing it, obviously.
It's quite big looking at the plans of it.
Yeah.
A snooker room or something, I should
Yeah, I was
imagine.
going to say, but I mean, the building that they're built is
Yes.
massive as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is at the moment in the middle of nowhere, but obviously the housing is going to be encroaching.
But as long as the
quite
height
close,
of which is not going to impact upon anybody's light or anything
so
else or size, it shouldn't make any
nothing
difference.
really.
No.
No.
And then we're back to the same one again, change of use.
And then we've got the other ones. Construction of detached portal frame, double height building and associated works.
I can't remember that one.
I can't access mine, so.
Don't know. Comes out.
I haven't got everything, so.
Quick look. So,
Well, was that 1181?
yeah, yeah.
1181-22. Then you've got extension alteration to including pitch roof,
Yeah,
Tiger's Bar, isn't it?
yeah.
Because the pitch is
Construction
not.
of detached portal frame.
Portal frames are, yeah, so it's type of steel frame.
Frame, just a frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Portal.
It's just as to where it is, more than anything that we just need to.
It's basically a detached double height building somewhere.
I'm not getting there.
I'm not sure where. I'm not able to.
Well, we'll just go, we'll have a quick look with, I'll go and find it on.
Yeah,
and then
just
we'll
whether it's domestic or commercial,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
I can't remember the details of it.
It didn't
off the top
stop
of my
down, I
head.
don't think.
I was going to say, I've never been to look at any of these. Should I be looking at them?
The only time you would need to look is if you've got any concerns and you want to make,
You can do site visits if you want to, if you already know the area, or
Yeah,
you
you
want to
guys,
just,
I guess, do, whereas, yeah.
it's just making yourself aware. If it looks a bit, you're not
Yeah.
quite sure, just have a
Yeah.
recce and see how you feel about it in situ
Right.
as to what
Yeah.
what you're actually talking about. That's the easiest
Yeah,
way.
okay.
So I've not got a connection.
I think Jan's got a document that she's got on a Silka, which goes through a list of all the material considerations that we can basically use.
Right.
So that would be useful to send out.
Yeah, circulate that. Yes, so we've got it. Okay, so we'll leave that on for now. We'll come back to that if we can get the connection. So we've got the Tiger Spa modification of condition 2, which is the pitch roof issue that was brought up at our meeting.
I mean, it's built,
They've done it.
it doesn't affect anybody.
They shouldn't have done it.
No, but,
Yeah. And obviously, we need, I mean, from the point of view of the actual planning application, there is no reason to object to it.
I mean, in comparison to the other one, they didn't apply for planning at all. They did apply for planning.
Yeah.
And presumably building control would have inspected, so, you know,
Yeah.
it's a bit of blame on both parts, isn't it? But it's not a major issue.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any comments on that.
So do you think people are generally aware of what they should submit planning for, or?
Yeah, I think they would
In
definitely
this
be aware.
case?
They know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're using an architect for
Yes.
theirs, so I think, yeah,
So,
that-
yeah, they would have known it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so as a knock-on to that, we'll come to that at the end, because we do need to write some letters
yes.
of concern, but we'll come to that at the end of that. So, yeah, so we've got no objections to the modification of that one. And then you've got change of use of offices to a dwelling, which is Edinburgh Walk, which has only just come in. It was originally a dwelling,
A house,
and it's
yeah.
converted to an office, so it's just basically going back, and it's due to retirement, so
Right.
it's not an issue. It's a residential area, so not a problem. And then you change views to include a takeaway and alterations retrospective, which again is the Tiger's Bar.
Mm.
So,
Is this their breakfast
yes,
arrangements?
yes.
I suppose if they're applying for proper planning for a takeaway, would they not be charged business rates now?
Yes, there should be. That section should be.
That section would be, because it would now be.
Because it is a business, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then there were concerns that I read about HGVs parking in
Yeah.
park road, etc.
I mean, it's not, at the correct times of day, it is not an issue because there is room to park. I do think that if anything, we should make a comment that there would be concerns around the opening times of it, in that if it's at peak time when kids are all being dropped off at school and whatever, and you've got people that are wanting to access it, even like your HGVs or your drivers that are just popping in, it is an absolute nightmare parking at that time. But how do you mitigate that? You know,
Well,
if they
one
go.
of the dangers of kind of scope creep for the opening times. I mean, I'm not clear on what times they're planning to open. They say they did do it at school opening times, or
Well, they do.
They do, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they do.
I think they're intending
Lunchtimes.
catching a lot of the school traffic.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's difficult.
Yeah. Do they catch the lunchtime
Yes,
Yeah.
as well?
yes, they do.
Mhm.
Which is, it
Yeah.
makes sense. Sensible. They're
absolutely.
thinking about themselves, and they're thinking, obviously, the kids are on the way to go to Tesco or wherever.
Sensible.
I mean,
And they
really,
are-
there's not a problem with what they're doing. It's generally, like we discussed before, the problem with the parking, the visibility, etc. down there. I mean, you get parking down there all the time anyway at school time.
I do
It's
think
just-
that they are, I mean, people ignore them anyhow, the double yellows, but, they have got a pull-off, they have got a yard. So if anybody wanted to go and park and go and get their food, they can do it. But the problem is if people park all the way across it, which they do at school times, you can't get in the yard. So it may be, it concerns around highways in general and looking at any more new road markings that may be
I was going to say,
required.
can they not put a do not park here?
Something, I don't know, I mean,
Access.
I do think that whole stretch needs to be looked at.
It's the whole Park Road situation,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I mean, could they just put up a sign saying customer parking and direct them into the gravel area to try and get them off the road? I mean, there's things they can do, isn't there? As long as they've got enough space available.
So if we just make the comment, we've not got an objection as such, but we would like them to consider that, obviously there are busy times of the day whereby parking and traffic becomes an issue, and anything that they can do to mitigate that would be appreciated. So then going back to the whole issue of what happened with these two particular ones.
Do you want to agree that?
Yeah, yes, we do that. So we're happy with those planning responses in general,
Yes.
Yeah.
apart from the one that we haven't decided yet, but we'll hopefully get a connection for that. Oh, right, okay. Oh, it's
Oh,
university, it's the
Oh.
University Academy.
I
It's the side bit, isn't it? It's the where the maths block was.
I believe it must be something to do with their technical qualifications, because it said about having like a bungalow inside, and it seems like a very large.
Yeah.
So it's obviously something, and they've provided additional parking as well. So I would
So that's
suggest.
it, so we've got no problem with that.
Oh, I would suggest we go for in support. It's a good thing for the town, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fun.
Sorry it took that long. It just popped up.
Okay, so proposal for those. Yeah, I'm just looking at one moment. Fine. Okay, so then we go on to the next item, which is item B, to discuss and resolve a way forward with the recent planning application submitted in the council's name without prior approval. Obviously, you will have all had a little look at the
Yes, I read
document.
that earlier on.
So the issue with the football club and Tigers Bar themselves, that has been resolved in that they've had a conversation with us, they've explained how the situation came about, etc., and they have put in their name, so they've taken it on board. what happened in the past we can't do anything about. However, I think your main concern, I'll pass over to you, is around the architect and his part in the whole situation, in that he should have known better.
Yeah, I mean, the planning applications were very strange because they were done in the architect's name but in our name. So they weren't filled out correctly at all. They should obviously be the agent, not the applicant. I mean, they shouldn't have filled it out in our name anyway. The council didn't give permission for it to be in our name. But if they're practicing architect, they should be advising their clients correctly and not, it's basically fraud, putting it in somebody's name.
Is he self-employed or is it part of an organisation?
I'm not quite sure, I haven't looked into it. But the only problem we've got is the original planning application is put in our name. Now they're putting in retrospective planning applications to modify the conditions of that. If the district council wanted to take action against them, because I mean it's unlikely they're not going to approve them, but to say they did, it's us who's liable because it's in our name. So the only other thing I can think of is, do you ask them to put in a retrospective planning application to change the name of the original, so that we do not have any liability within that? Because that's the only problem. Or they write to district council or something, because I think
I think that, I think they need to make it clear to district that we have no liability. They put in the planning application, they did all the drawings, they didn't show us any of it really at all.
Because the other problem is that we get a discount for our planning applications. So I don't know, I mean that's district's problem with them, but presumably they received the discount because they placed it in our name. So it may be there's money owed somewhere or whatever, I don't know.
What's the discount worth?
50%.
50%.
Yes.
So that would be for planning and for the building regs, I would presume, would it?
I'm not sure.
Because that's a hefty amount of money you're talking
Yeah.
about.
It is, yeah. I mean, the retrospective ones have now been done correctly, so they're fine, but I mean, the point is obviously all this has got brought up through our meetings of the original, clearly not, the conditions not being followed. They're now having to put in retrospective because the conditions were not followed, but that original application's in our name.
So they put a retrospective one in.
Yeah.
To investigate the monies as well. Okay.
So do we write directly to district and make them aware of what has happened?
Yeah.
So that they are fully aware. What they choose to do with that, that's up to them. If they then go back to Tiger Spa and say, well, you'll need to change, you'll have to do a retrospective and change the fact that it should never have been put in on that name, that's up to them. So I think rather than going via whoever, direct to district, say this is what's
I know
happened.
Jan mentioned that on the phone, but I
But
think
it just needs to be put into
writing.
writing.
Yes.
And say that obviously, they have, we presume they've claimed our discount, but
Yeah, so we asked for a response as to the
as to what.
explanation. Yeah.
Because obviously this was a question posed to us anyway at one of the last meetings about that planning application, and now we've found out more. So
we need to be seen to be
so
on our side, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's
clearly it wasn't right, and like I say, you can't.
and depending on the outcome of the planning application, I presume it's all going to be fine. They'll be accepted. I doubt they'll be refused, but you go a bit awry.
Good. So we do that, and then obviously Tiger's Bar and the architect are both aware of the situation moving
They've both
forward.
been in contact with us, yeah.
So there should not be another issue. But we just need to watch this space, don't we?
Is there anything in that process that kind of flags us, in future? So to prevent it from happening again, so whilst we've spoken to Tiger's Bar and the architect, we're going to inform them, as part of that, putting it through in our name,
Yeah.
on that occasion. Is there anything we should be doing in the future so that we're red flagged?
I mean, all the applications come to us for Whole Beach,
Yes.
so we can see all of them and check them. You would hope district would do some better checking than they
But the
are
fact is,
doing.
yeah, the fact is, yeah, you would. I mean, the fact that it's been put through in our name though,
Yeah,
so we can double check that when they come through to us?
yeah, we can, yeah.
Okay, so, fine.
And I would also probably just raise a concern with district that it's managed to slip through. And the other two were going to slip through as well if the conversation had been had. Which is a bit of a worrying situation.
Yeah, so we write to district, make them fully aware of the situation. And that's about all we can do at the moment.
Yeah, and then whatever they choose to do is down to them.
Okay, so proposal that we write to district? All in favour? Yeah, thank you. And then 075 is speeding. To discuss and resolve to agree city locations for January. Where are we currently, Peter?
In my garage.
So, should have been at Whole Beach, St John's and Church.
So,
Yeah,
so I
so we
would
do, yeah.
suggest that we
Do.
move December's to January.
Yeah, so we just do
Yeah,
that.
and Steve, I'm meeting Steve on Monday to put them up, so
Okay.
we'll,
Okay.
sorry about that.
That's all right. Can't be helped, can it?
Can I have that? Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And then 076 is properties. Item A is to discuss and resolve a way forward with the windows at 2 High Street.
I have contacted them a couple of times,
Yeah.
I haven't had anything back.
Mm-hmm.
I've contacted them again yesterday, the gentleman concerned's not in until the 12th, and the other gentleman doesn't know anything about it, so they're going to contact me.
Okay, so in the interim then, so we can at least have in principle what we're thinking. It depends on what budget we've got left, really, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We need to double check where we're at with the properties
We can
maintenance
review
budget.
that finance coming.
Yeah, so we'll do that at finance, but I mean, they are on a full repair lease and it should really all be down to them, but they are massive windows. It is only a small section, so I wouldn't imagine it's going to be a huge amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
but we need the quotes, and then we'll review what we can afford to do. That's all we can do. But if they're not going to repair it, then we're going to have to push the issue.
We do need to insist they repair it, don't we?
Yes, we
It's our
do,
property.
really, yeah.
I mean, you've got the people who are repairing the windows at Coombe.
Mm.
The only other thing is to receive a quote and just say that it needs to be, give them a deadline, it needs to be repaired by X date.
Yeah.
If they wish to get their own quotes, fine, but if not, we'll get the quotes and we'll agree a contribution, but they need to repair it.
So wait and see whether you get a response next week, Karen,
Yeah.
and then if not, we'll, so really, we want it repairing by what, when are we looking? We're now January, so what, by the spring?
Into March.
End of March, ideally?
New financial year?
8 weeks, 10 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah, if we said, it's got to be, we need to do any payment
work's
we're
got
going
to
to
be
do
started,
within
yeah.
our financial year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then item B, to resolve,
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
okay, and then to resolve to agree the price to charge Falls Club per session. Don't know. To be fair.
Or do we know how much it's costing us to maintain?
No,
Because we're doing it ourselves, aren't we?
it'll be, the only issue that I can see, obviously you can have your fertilisers, etc., that you're going to have to purchase.
I think the problem is we don't actually need to purchase anything for this year
No.
because we're utilising the rest.
Of what they've
So
got.
we haven't got, the only costings we've got to go on
Yes.
is the tender price, which
Which
was
was horrendous.
approximately 10 grand. So-
Have they allowed us to use all their machinery?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for this season,
Yeah.
and then we review it after that.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's as to whether we,
So how many times do they use it in a week?
they said to us it would be 3 times a week,
3 times per week.
and it would be for about 3 hours at a time.
Yeah, and then visiting, just having a open session thing with them as well. sometimes.
Yeah, so occasionally they'd have.
Yeah, so
So it'd be,
approximately 3 days a week.
yeah,
How many
3
weeks of the year?
well, it was from Easter through to end of September normally. So it's about 5 months now.
So,
Yeah, 5 months.
so 20 weeks of the year?
That works out,
Yeah-ish.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to calculate how many sessions they're going to do
Yeah,
in a year,
yeah.
and then we're looking at roughly what your costing is going to be, because you still need to be deciding, because they
Well,
need to
they
decide.
need to know really, because
Yeah.
they need to be able to tell
So
their.
So
9
even-
hours, 9 hours a week.
Yeah, potentially.
So 9 hours a week and 20 weeks of the year.
So if you said 10 hours a week, to make it easy.
But are we doing it per session or per
Well,
hour?
if you, no, per session, well,
Oh,
I think if you do it for them per session, and then other people, it would be on a per hour, so they would get a better rate, if you see what I mean.
okay. So you're looking at 60 sessions in a year, approximately. I mean, it depends what cost you're trying to cover, doesn't it?
Well, you're likely to potentially have some costs of staff, because I would suggest that you might have to do some extra
Okay.
hours to cover the
Yeah.
grass cutting. So whatever your staffing costs are, because what, so they cut twice a week in the season,
Mm.
I think?
Yeah, 2 to 3 times a week, I would say,
Yeah.
in the
So
season.
2 to 3 times a week in the season.
Okay.
So that if you're
Is
going
it
to
a
be...
20-week season?
Yeah, ish.
Right.
Well, they're going to be cut every time before they
Yeah, they're going
use the
to...
word,
Yeah.
so 3 times a week.
So 3 times 20, 60, yeah.
So
60 cuts, basically.
So are you going to be, I mean, is it going to be an hour's worth of work to do a cut?
Okay, so say you budget
No more.
60 hours.
At whatever you're paying
Yeah.
Aaron?
Yeah, okay. I've got that price.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so then divide that back down to your,
Well, that's the cost of the staff costs, and then say we were doing fertiliser and things like that. I mean, should we estimate £1.5 grand approximately?
I think that they did tell us originally that their costs per year were about 2 to 2.5, didn't they? I have to sort of remember that's how they were.
Remember
So if you're
3,000.
saying approximate cost per year, because we're not paying for this year, but we need to estimate,
Yeah.
so £2 grand a year, 60 sessions in a year. £33.
So,
Very reasonable.
But then divided by, say you're doing per hour, because that's
yeah.
3-hour sessions, isn't it? So it's just approximately over £10 an hour.
Mm.
Do you remember they charge each person,
£2.50.
so they charge,
And they pay £25.
They pay
yearly prescription.
So
they
there's
charge each
subscription
person £2.50 per session,
per session.
and it's
They
going
would
to cost
expect
us.
about 7 or 8, did they say,
Yeah.
each time? So you've got to think about how much they are actually going to be getting each time.
Okay. So if they, well, if they're going to do, if they're going to have 7 people, £2.50, £17.50.
Yeah, so it's not going to work, is it?
Then your cost is probably going to be about £33
Possibly.
for a 3-hour session-ish. But that's based on them, that's based on only them using it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have all of the costs this year because we're utilising their fertiliser.
So,
So, I mean, say you charge, what,
I mean,
£15 a session, that's £5 an hour?
yeah, I was going to say, if we aim to do £5 an hour for them, I think that's reasonable, don't you think? Because, you know,
Fuel
then
costs.
again, if
Yeah.
a couple of them want to go and do a bit of a practice, an hour's session for £5 it's not a lot of money.
Because I believe their costings of how much it cost them in total was £2 to £2.5 grand a year, I think, for maintenance.
Right, okay.
So if we're working on that,
I mean, we're going to be running at a loss for this year.
yeah. So, I mean, if you do
We've got-
£15 an hour times 3,
Not an hour.
not an hour, sorry, £15 times 60, because you've got 60 sessions, is going to get you £900 a year.
Yeah, which is more than what we were getting anyhow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's more than what we would have been getting,
Mhm.
would they have gone for a lease. So, you know, it's sort of,
So did we do that till our, budget year, or did
Yeah.
we do that for the whole of the season?
well, it'll be for the whole of the
The
season.
whole of the season?
Yeah, so we'll save it, because we said we'd review it at the end of the season.
that's
If
what I
they've
was
got
gonna
more
say.
members and they then want to sign up for a lease
Yeah,
for a year or whatever, that's their prerogative.
Mhm.
They can then look at doing that, because they're hoping that they can generate some more interest in this year
Mhm.
and get back to the numbers that make it viable for them to actually pay what we want for a lease.
yeah, because if you
However-
wanted to sign up for a lease, they'd want to pay cheaper.
Yeah, exactly, which is what they
Okay.
would be. Yeah, we've already
But
given
could
them
we-
the
could we
options.
afford that?
Well, they,
Yeah,
if they did the
running a
lease,
loss
they were
anyway.
doing the maintenance themselves. So they had all the maintenance costs and were paying for a lease on top of that.
Okay,
Mm.
okay.
So we're now taking on the maintenance
Yes.
costs for them,
Yeah.
but that means we have to charge them extra because we've got to cover the
Yeah.
maintenance.
I know.
So,
So £5.
So if we aim for £5 per hour for
Yeah.
them,
and then,
and then because sometimes they'll probably only play for a 2-hour session, sometimes for 3 hours, sometimes for 4 hours. I don't know. It depends on
So
who.
yeah,
comes
there's
in.
about competitions in
Yes.
between that
So,
as well.
Yeah, and then the general public would be slightly higher.
Yeah, it's certainly not a deterrent on that price.
No, it's
Not
not.
at all.
no.
They're not
I
going
mean,
to.
it's for the whole of the.
Well, that's going to cost
area.
them
not for the
£900
internal bit,
in a year,
Yeah.
approximately, and they were paying two and a half for the maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're going to be saving money overall, aren't they?
So if we do that,
Yeah.
see where we go with it. If it starts, you know, obviously we're going to have to stick with it for this season,
Yes.
review it at the end, see where we're at.
Yeah, and we really need to get proper costings together of how much, if the guys can calculate how much fertiliser, etc. they're using when they're doing the maintenance and other bits and pieces, how many hours it's taking them, then we can work out properly.
So if
And Aaron's doing the maintenance, isn't he?
he is, but yeah,
On
currently he's
himself.
already started doing
On
it.
himself.
At the moment, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, obviously it doesn't warrant 2 people doing it.
No.
Obviously, the issue will be in the season,
Yeah.
if somebody's off.
Yeah.
I think he's calculated how much they've got logged down, all the different chemicals they've already got, and I believe that we will only need to be ordering, I think we need to order in the summer a few bits, but everything else they've got, so.
Okay.
They won't quibble with that price.
I don't think so.
No.
No.
Okay, so I'll propose that. Okay, if you can just let them know, Karen, so that they can start sorting themselves out ready for the season. And then item C is to receive an update on Holwich Bank Football Club. Well, we've got a meeting
Sorry,
next
can I just ask about the other ones? I don't know if Jen will ask. How that will be charged? I know it's £5
They-
an hour. Will it be?
They will have to book it in advance, so they're going to give us all of their dates well in advance. And then we would be looking for it, ideally it'd be best if it's paid by bank transfer, wouldn't it?
And that would be £5 an hour for anything, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So if they're wanting to use it for practice, if they're
Yeah.
wanting to use it for a match,
Irrespective
Yeah.
of.
yeah, because it's a reduced rate.
Because we don't want people having to keep wandering in with a fiver every, you know, especially if it's after hours or whatever. They need to have a system whereby
Yeah.
if they want to pay their treasurer, and then the treasurer then pays us.
Yeah.
That would be the simplest
Yeah.
situation.
Mhm. Just thought if it's down there was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So item C is receive an update on Holbush Bank, which is next week. We're meeting with them, so there's nothing to report on that one at the moment. We'll see where we go with it.
Yeah.
And then we'll change it for a next time. And then 077 is the emergency planning. To receive an update on the emergency planning, you won't be aware of this because it's before you joined. It's not compulsory, you don't have to do it, but obviously emergency plan for your area is a good thing to have in any eventuality. If it kicks in that you need to evacuate people or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And there's a set plan template, which is this.
Just pass so we can.
Yeah, can do, yeah.
Just have a look.
And two of our councillors went to do the emergency planning training. And then they drafted the original emergency plan that we have here. That was then sent off to the people that look it over, etc., etc. And they came back with a whole list of things, nothing major, but bits and pieces that need to be looked at. And then we met with them to discuss it. So it's really, they're just pushing for an update really, aren't they, as to where we're at with it. And to be perfectly honest, we haven't done any more with it.
No, because this is one I
I think the main thing is it's less about the paperwork side of stuff. The paperwork needs filling in,
Yes,
but it's actually coordinating it with the community,
yes,
which takes more time.
yeah.
I think what we were suggesting that we would be looking at doing is having a meeting and getting all of the relevant groups together
Yeah.
to make sure it's actually coordinated.
Yeah.
And then seeing which volunteers actually want to volunteer. Again, with the plan, you've got to say about where your safe places, venues are going to be.
You've got your safe places, and you've got your emergency kits, which we've got one here already, but he was going to give us another one, which needs to be in another location.
But it was having the venues in the various different areas, noting down who the key holders are, etc., and things like that. So it's really about getting together all these different people, so people in the community who are probably going to get involved, various different groups, the people who run the venues that you wanted to use, and actually just thrashing it out together. And I think what we did say about is, yes, the plan in writing is fine, but if you're thinking practically about using it, we really need all the key information on one nice little flow chart, so that you can just pick it up. I think Jan and Cameron would be the people who start with chain off, and then you need all of the information there rather than flipping through a massive booklet.
So say the emergency was in Holbush St John's, then the key point of contact down there would be Peter or somebody else local that has local knowledge down there, and then they would then coordinate out from there as to what happens, and once the emergency people arrive on scene, i.e. the people from Lincoln, they come and then they help activate the plan fully.
A little bit like disaster recovery plan for business.
Yeah.
So you go through those scenarios once a year, you do a test once a year.
Yeah, which is that's the next step. He wants to do a tabletop
I think they
to sort of see whether what we're saying will actually work.
Yeah.
But we're not really at that
they do a
stage.
tabletop test and they'll go through it
Yeah, that's right.
there, but then they do live ones as well,
Yes.
which he said are very good for getting more people engaged.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but we're not there yet.
No.
But we really need to be thinking about it a bit more laterally rather than just filling in the paperwork.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I think for me, we've already identified some key points within here that are missing and they need to be adjusted. Those can be done, that's fine, but I think it may be best to look at having separate meetings with separate groups in different areas, because obviously you're talking about a completely different set of people down Holbush St Marks. It's a much wider area you're
Yeah.
talking about, but then you've got your farmers and you've got your, you know, the people that have got access to machinery and that sort of thing that would help in certain emergencies and other
Yeah.
emergencies not so much. So it's about coordinating a group in each area really, isn't it? Making sure that they are ready to go, whatever happens.
Yeah, a good brainstorming session, going
yeah.
through the various scenarios, you know, just think about the temperatures last summer.
Yeah,
Are we going to get
exactly, you
wildfires
could
this
well
year?
have that.
So really, you're looking at having a meeting with various people in each.
Yeah, maybe initially with people that are knowledgeable about that particular area,
Yeah.
and they would then say, oh, but Joe Blogs to offer
It doesn't
this,
need to be
I will
everybody.
speak to them,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it's getting those key people round the table and saying, well, yes, we can offer this, we could do that.
So do we split that up into the separate wards?
I think it might be an idea.
Yeah, I mean, Herne is a big area, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, looking at your areas, your safe places, the Herne and the bank hadn't got one listed. Well, you've got the village hall at the Herne, so it makes sense to have something there, because else if you're going all the way down to Holt St Mark's, then that's ridiculous, because if you've got an ingress of water coming, that's going to hit there first, isn't it? So you need to then come further.
Yeah.
So you've got to have two alternatives. So if you had something that, so we
But it's also
thought
thinking
that.
about what's suitable, because St Mark's Village Hall,
It's not really
it's got all the
suitable.
gym equipment in now, so you haven't got the space if you've got loads of people.
Are there any other plans, diagrams that we can draw down upon from other regions?
Yeah, I'm sure that if you looked online, there would be others there.
Because what I would be thinking of is if we had like a simple flow chart,
Yeah.
but do one for each area, so you've got St Mark's, you've got
Yeah.
town, and then that can just be pinned up on the wall. Jan and Karen can look at it
Yeah.
straight away, and each location can also have that available as well, can't they?
So I think the
So
next
people
step
know
really
what's
that we
on.
need to do is to start looking at getting these meetings organised
Yeah.
with key people and get that kick-started. So go to their area, sit with them, have a general chat around what's needed.
Yeah, I think we need a clear agenda.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
to publicise that
Yeah.
and give them time to think about it, so that they come with input.
So, I mean, if we go through the plan and detail kind of the process we're looking for, the different questions we need answering, and then that's the information we need. We need to be, who's the contact for this, who's going to do that, what's going to happen if,
Yeah.
All the
sort of
different
what
bits and
scenarios,
pieces.
isn't it?
yeah. And then you know what answers you're wanting before you go to the meeting, so it can be. And then that really is duplicated for every single area, isn't it?
Yeah.
And is this environment agency or?
No, it's
No,
a
it's
special.
Everybody's got, that's
Yeah,
what they follow.
Lincolnshire
That's what
has
they
got.
follow,
Yeah,
So
so
it's the guidance from there,
it's
Yeah.
a
templates. or
template, but you can obviously.
But is the template done from, it's a group in Lincolnshire,
Yeah,
isn't it, that
it
do
is,
the
yeah.
emergency plan? And they've got their number on there that you can ask for advice, but what
Right.
we do is if we have an emergency that meets their criteria or something, we ring them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
And we
they.
also ring the emergency
Take over,
services,
yeah.
but they basically take over.
Yeah.
Right.
But until they take
Okay,
over,
so-
we have to be able to coordinate and
Right.
start getting people out or.
So we're
Whatever.
at the very beginning part of the process, we don't have to worry about the rest of it. But it's, step one is ring this person, step two is do this,
Get
then,
things moving.
what if
Do
this
we know this before they kick in?
I believe they did say, didn't they? It depends on where they're cited.
Well, it doesn't matter now, but what about these meetings then? Is there anybody that could come and facilitate them? Or are they expecting us to
We
facilitate
have
these?
to facilitate.
Right, that's right.
It's down to us now. That we have to make the plan work for our area.
Yeah,
They will facilitate the testing and the exercises and things like that. They'll help with that. They'll review the plan for us, but we kind of need to gather the local knowledge and put together what we feel is best for us.
are there any other groups that we should be contacting?
I think
Committees.
I think you've got key groups that would be important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got key groups, and obviously within that group, some of them might live
In
the different areas. Whole Beach is quite simple, you've got plenty of people. The other ones will be more niche as to who's actually there. But I think we would know various people to get together for each
for an
area.
initial talk,
for
around
initial
what we-
brainstorm, and then they can
And
also let us know
those.
what other groups there are in the area that they think would be useful. Yeah.
So it's
For those different scenarios as well, do they do, or do we do, the risk score? So,
No,
likelihood
no,
of event?
no. We don't have to get into any of that. All they require from us really is to have something ready
Yeah.
so that if
Site locations.
so that
Yeah,
Make
if
contacts.
something were to happen, so say there was a massive
So we do a telephone chain really.
yeah, I mean there's a massive incident, say on the A17, you
Yes.
know, and you've got tankers on fire and it's near to the school and blah 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 blah. Yes, the emergency services would come and deal with the situation, but we would need to potentially coordinate getting people out if there was
Indeed.
not such.
But I mean, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the time, it's going to be instances that you don't actually need to action anything. Like when everybody's water went off, not that long ago. It would be more about getting the information out
Yes.
on our social media and various different places. And if you've got other people who would also share that information out, that's probably going to be what you're doing most often.
No, agreed.
So
That's right.
I think think about what scenarios are most likely to happen in the area. They did say about the flood risk maps they can provide,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah.
Which
Yes,
shows
from
the different
small to
areas.
the big, isn't it?
Yeah.
And everything in between.
And I think a lot of people forget about the small.
Yeah.
They just think, oh, major disaster,
Yeah.
we're going to evacuate everybody into this
Yeah.
safe. It's not likely to happen, is it? You've got to have a plan there, but yeah. So it's it takes more work than you think when you actually do it properly.
I always wondered what the little ER
Yeah.
meant when I looked up here.
Yeah.
Emergency route.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It is.
Or evacuation.
Doesn't
Just
seem
think
to-
out evacuation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just think how block those roads are going to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you actually look at where they're all going, you think, where are you taking these people to? I don't quite know where you're taking them to.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing afterwards, when we've actually sort of starting to get the plan together and we'll do the drills and everything, it will be about publicising it, you know, having key, maybe producing key information and putting it up in the various areas.
Yeah.
That's going to be more of the work than,
That's
because if people don't know
communication.
about it, then,
So really, I mean, from our point of view, it's sort of, it's a bit of a crossover into PR
yeah,
and events, really. The PR side of it is we now need to get out there and start talking to the people that we need to be talking to.
producing the kind of basic plans, consolidate the information into a nice little,
Yeah.
you know, and then that can then be distributed to various people and publicised. So
when, I mean, which area are we going to try and tackle as a priority? Because you've got all the areas and you've got to meet with everybody, so you can't do it all in 1 month, can you? So you've got
Shall
to
we
think
say
about, so.
we'll do the villages first, because
it's smaller,
there's
aren't they?
less things to think about. And then once we know what we're doing, we can tackle the town.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, pilot
Yeah.
with one particular
So
location.
do we,
I think Herne
Herne
would be easier.
easier
We've got contacts, there's
to start
should
the
be a nice
brainstorm.
simple,
Rather than St Mark's.
yeah.
Well, Herne
Well,
and the Herne ward in general.
The Herne ward.
So you've got your key people that we know have got knowledge
Yeah.
that we could invite to a meeting and do a brainstorm. So if we could get that one penciled in,
Yeah.
But
So-
between us, we need to think about, we need to review that and the list of things that he said and just come up with basic bits that we actually need information wise.
Yeah.
And then we can send that out to them before we meet.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably have the meeting and think of other things that we didn't put on the list. We can put that on the list for next time.
so if we try and get the Herne Ward meeting done, so we're January, so by the end of February.
Yeah.
We can try and get something penciled in to meet. I mean, ideally, it would, if it's more in a, so maybe at the Herne Village Hall
Yeah.
would be sensible, because then everybody hasn't got so far to go.
And you don't want too many people.
You only want a few people there.
Yeah.
But you want your key people that have got the knowledge, and then they go off and then recruit, basically. So if we look to do a date sometime in February.
And they then would be the designated contact person in an emergency.
Yeah, that you would, ideally what you would do, you would have the initial, which would be Jan and Karen
Yes.
would be, and then they would then go down to whichever
That's right.
area we were looking at.
We
So-
are designated person.
So if it's the Herne, then if it's one of the Herne Ward councillors that's happy to do it, that's fine. But if it's somebody that's better suited, that's more local, that is better, then it would be them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, they can be non-council as well as council, it really doesn't
Yeah,
matter. So it's working all that out. So if we aim to probably look at first week of February,
Yeah. And then
if we come up with a bit of a list of people that we think that we need to invite, and then find out their availability that week. So off the top of my head, I mean, you're going to be looking at Nick Worth, you're going to be looking at Jenny Worth,
Yeah.
you're going to be looking at, I mean, obviously Rachel's got knowledge, you've got, who else have we got down that way?
Is that Rachel Flood?
Yeah.
Our ex-policeman,
Oh yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Peter.
I'm sure
Yeah.
he would be.
Because
Yes,
he's got
he
links
would.
with the Agdets as
He's got
well. hasn't he?
Agdets
Yeah.
links and he's, yeah, he's, that's all.
Chaz, because he's Herne, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the Herne Ward members
Yes.
ought to be there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just regardless,
Is
because,
that Rick as well?
yeah, Rick is, but I mean, Rick
Yeah, but
doesn't
it's,
have the
I
knowledge
suppose
to
there's people who
represent.
actually live with
Yes.
them.
Yeah, so you've got people that live
That'll
down
all
that
change
way,
All change in May, I think.
and then we'll just do a bit of brainstorm, think who, but you only really want half a dozen people,
Yeah.
10 at the most, doing the brainstorm, because that's it'll just get
Yeah, indeed.
ridiculous,
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
and go from there.
Mhm.
Okay. So, that was just to receive an update, so we don't need to do any more on that. And then confirmation of date and venue of the next PPES meeting. So,
We had this discussion in the other room about what we do with dates, times,
Yes.
because you've now got Chaz,
on here.
and he works till, is it 5:30?
And he can be here for 5:30.
Yeah, Monday to Friday. So, yeah.
You've made a very good suggestion.
Yes.
So obviously the majority of the
because-
committees are not full-time workers,
And people have
and
other
other people
commitments.
have other commitments.
So it's whether we do one meeting in an evening and then the following month we do
Alternate,
a day.
Yeah, alternating. Yeah, that's fair, then, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so we've got a bit of,
Yeah.
so maybe as we did this one daytime, we'll
So
do
we
next
do the
one.
next one in the evening.
Yeah.
So that at least Chaz has got a bit of an idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it possible to do a Wednesday? If that fitted in with everybody, it's fine.
Yes.
That's
Doesn't
all right.
matter to me.
So I want to get back to
Wednesday's
my running
might be
group.
For me to do an evening.
Is it? Okay.
Sorry?
Wednesdays could be good. So
Yeah.
an evening
For an evening.
perspective.
Yeah.
Wednesday
So
the 8th?
We normally do 2 weeks after full council,
Yeah,
don't we?
they do. So we're,
Full council's the 13th.
But it's weird, isn't it?
yeah, it's
Because
weird this time.
Yeah.
So we're.
So where's the next full, the next full council is the 13th, finance is the 6th. So
Yeah.
you'll be looking either week commencing the 23rd or the 30th.
Yeah, I don't think you want to go right to the end because actually you've gone like 2 months, haven't you? Because we're right at the beginning of January.
Yeah,
aren't we?
but you need to reset your schedule. Because
Yeah,
it's
I
all
know.
gone weird because of Christmas.
I know.
So
But if we're going to do the meeting down Herne in that first week of February, aren't we? Potentially.
Yeah.
So if you did the week beginning the 20,
Well,
whatever,
Your open spaces meeting is the Wednesday of that 23rd, so.
It's the 25th.
23rd.
The week commencing the 23rd, your open spaces meeting is scheduled for the 25th in the evening.
Right, okay.
So that slot's taken. So if you wanted to do a Wednesday, you'd be February the 1st,
Okay.
which is slap bang in the middle between your two full council meetings.
Okay.
So that would be when you would usually have your meeting.
Right, so yeah, so we do that then. If we do the February 1st, and then you could look to doing the following week for your meeting down with other people in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it, 5:30?
5:30, yeah, just coming at
On
5.
the first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.